So out of this came a project that took us into the land to try and protect old Maori villages and gardens and power sites and canoe landing sites, anywhere they'd left their mark for us to see. And this was necessary. I began to realize that so much of the past was being swept away by bulldozers and ignorance. That farmers and developers and road makers were actually sending these bulldozers through places that had huge significance, not knowing that they were, unaware of what was beneath the land. The only way they could be protected was to survey them, photograph them, and register them with our Historic Places Trust, and then they would be secure. So we began a project to work for 2 weeks of the year within our official college time out in the land, and then for those who would volunteer to do it in their holidays. And for some students that became 6 or 8 months of the year. They gifted their time to walking the land and finding these places and became very good at it. And I taught them surveying skills so that they could record them accurately, and had teams of photographers to bring the sites into images that people could understand. And in addition to that, we had teams of them who would try and find the old stories about these places. And that was often library work, but often also meeting with elders nearby. And all that came together, it was 4 or 5 years' work, in a book that we called The Tattooed Land. And the government, in its kindness, they actually gave me 18 months leave to produce this. It was a wonderful thing for them to actually do that at that time, because, money was short, and, these things weren't always thought to be so important. But, on any page you open here, you'll see a map of a power site, photograph, drawings that I have done, or photographs that are there of things found there, and story, description, and very often story. And we've done that over and over again, and where we've had artifacts, I've taken them and I've drawn them, so that everything is brought together. And what this meant, and this was written not for my academic colleagues, but written for people, families, schools, whoever wished to go out onto the land, to actually carry this book there, place themselves there, walk in the footsteps of those who'd been before, follow the wall and the gateway and the ditch structure, and bring it all into a place where they could understand it, talk about it. So that was done, and there wasn't anything quite like it out there at this time. And it's gone a long way, because it's not only made these places accessible to schools and families and individuals who want to walk into the past, but it's also, in a very special kind of way, brought back the stories and protected these places. And it's allowed me to go onto some of these places that are now farmland and walk it with a farmer and say, look, what's here? This is our heritage from long ago, and you're the guardian of it. Plough this field deeply and you'll destroy something that could be very important in our future. And the response was wonderful. A lot of them became so proud of of what they had. You know, a lot of them had no idea of what was there. They were stunned when we walked it and found it and showed it to them and revealed what had been there so long ago. So I called this the tattooed land, you know, because it was the marks that humans had left on the face of the earth itself. And once you developed the eye for it, a whole volume was open to you, the story. So that was really important in establishing a base for conservation of these sites throughout the South Island. But then I realised that that was only one dimension of their life that was putting in place where they had actually marked the earth itself. And then I realised, well, actually the people walked this and they carried the pounamu. And they went through so much of the land that was nothing they hadn't explored in search of pounamu on the west coast. In terms of walking through the land to tie the source of the rivers to the stars, to tie the mountain peaks to the stars, to honour the spirit and mana of the land. They were amazing. So there were these incredible trails that went through the land, and I said, we need to tell that story. If we're going to do history with boots on, then we better follow where they went. So that was my next journey, and that became Greenstone Trails. Although, of course, more than stone travelled these trails. You know, it was really revealing a whole way of life. And here, this is a very special place because this is an amazing pass that takes you right across the Southern Alps. This is the key pass on the most important sacred trail of all. It's called Te Huarahi o Rongo Marairo, which means the Trail of the Peacemakers. And this trail held the mana of women. This trail could only be walked in the power of women. Men could come and carry the stone, but they held the spirit of it. They always had to be in the party that carried the stone over this ancient trail. So if we look at this photograph, this shows you something of the subtlety of the stone people and how they would leave a little mark there that you would think was natural until you looked at it again, till you took that second look to say, hey, the stone people have walked here. Because if you look at this parapet and see that stone on top, it's not natural. It was placed there centuries upon centuries ago, and it remains there. When I get in these high places, the paiarahi in me, the trail maker, the stone person within me, has to dance. It's quite amazing. I get up here and I get up on top of this and I have to dance, and people say, come down, and I say, no, this is where I want to be. It just lifts me. It's quite amazing. So that's the top of the pass. And it's a very, very steep way down. But that's the trail across the Southern Alps, the key trail for carrying the stone. So that was done, and these books sat there for about 8 or 9 years, and I met a colleague out in a marae one night. I'd gone to a place where there was teaching being done, and I was a guest. And he said to me, what are you doing now? And I said, nothing. He said, why aren't you writing? I said, well, I'm waiting. He said, what are you waiting for? I said, I'm not going to write anything more until the elders call me. And it was virtually the next day that I got that call. And that's when Waitaha was the beginning of the first steps into the realm of Waitaha.